Everybody, welcome back to the Eat Local New York podcast. This week, it's a little bit of a different episode. I'm actually interviewing a business owner from New York City via Zoom. His name is Yuji, and he owns a Japanese ramen shop, a Japanese breakfast restaurant, and a Japanese fish market and sort of education center in the East Village. I first learned about Yuji because of some articles that were written online where he is claiming that allegedly Wegmans has, taken his brand identity and similar name and opened up a competing business just 3 blocks away from his in New York City in the East Village. And as someone who's from Syracuse, an upstate New Yorker who has shopped at Wegmans and kind of considers like they're the home team brand, an important part of, I think, an upstate New Yorker's diet is a Wegmans sub, right? It's a staple in our diets here as upstate New Yorkers. At least it is for my family. So when I heard that they were going to New York City, it was exciting. It was like, hey, the home team brand's expanding. That's awesome. And then seeing this article come out and the articles I've read where this small business owner in New York City in these villages claiming that, Wegmans or the fish broker has allegedly taken his brand identity and just mimicked his name and copied his business practices and are now competing against him just 3 blocks away from him. I was very interested in this story and wanted immediately to interview him. So I reached out, and I'm glad that he was able to take time out of his busy schedule as someone who's operating 3 businesses in New York City. That he was able to take time out to sit on Zoom and chat with me. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It's brief. We're not incredibly detailed. I don't want to take too much of his time. I really just wanted to kind of get his voice and his perspective on what's going on and hear the details as he says that they're happening, and just put that out there. I'm not going to reach out to Wegmans. I don't think anybody at Wegmans would ever speak to me on the podcast. And if they did, I don't know, how interesting that would be. But anyways, yeah. So I should say, so I don't get sued. This podcast is, these are Yuji's views on what's happening, and I'm just simply here along for the ride and asking questions based on his perspective. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Before we jump into this week's episode, I want to thank our sponsors at Brown Carbonic, a wonderful family-owned and operated business that's been servicing food service companies and hospitality businesses for multiple generations. The tagline at Brown Carbonic is they put the fizz in your biz, and that's true. They offer such a wide array of products and services for food businesses, from ice machines and dish machines and CO2 and nitrogen for draft beer systems to even making their own craft soda and beverages with Challenger Cola. Make sure you reach out to them today at 315-454-3591. Again, that's 454-3591, and make sure to tell them that you heard about them right here on the Eat Local New York podcast. Well, without further ado, let's jump into my conversation this week on the Eat Local New York podcast with Yuji. First of all, thank you for coming on the podcast. I heard, I saw your story online about what's happening with, currently with your business and the Wegmans that launched and opened up in New York City. And I'll start by saying it's not too much of a surprise as someone, Wegmans is based here in upstate New York, but it's not too much of a surprise that there's a situation where they're essentially copying another business practices or their offerings or their food or anything like that for their own profit. It's something that as upstate New Yorkers we're kind of familiar with, unfortunately. But having said that, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what's going on right now.
Oh yeah. So my name is Yuji. I'm the owner of this like a Japanese style fish market called Osakana, and then it's located in East Village. And then I've been doing this business for almost 8 years. And then background of myself was that I opened a restaurant first for Japanese breakfast and ramen, all based with like a local seafood. And then I opened Osakana just because I wanted to have a great access for high quality seafood for the people in New York City, especially the ones that love sushi. So there's not a lot of places where people can learn to make sushi, and also how to like actually buy ingredients needed to do sushi at home. So it's like a one-stop shopping for sushi, and also provide a lot of fun educational classes.
That's awesome. So, and you've had that business for 8 years?
Yeah, 8 years, yes.
So tell us, what was the process, or when, or not the process, but when did Wegmans, because, for those of everybody listening or watching who doesn't know, Wegmans opened up their first New York City, grocery store last year. And it was, highly anticipated. It was kind of a big move for the brand of Wegmans. But then here, just a few months later, we hear about what's going on. So tell us, kind of, if you can walk us through that, kind of what's happening with what Wegmans has done and how that's, involved with your business.
Yeah. So, I am inside, I'm in the middle of the East Village. And then, like, I knew that, the Wegman was coming like 3 blocks down the street. And then, I had, I didn't really care anything about them opening the store because, Wegman's opening in East Village. Yeah, cool. That's I had no expectation to have any issue with me later on. And then what happened was the Osakana, my business, after 7 years, it became very successful, and I'm very happy about what I accomplished in New York City through my businesses. So I decided to relocate my family to different states to start a new chapter of my life. So I was just in the middle of looking for a potential business partner. I started looking for business partner, reaching out to a lot of people, putting an advertisement for M&A and everything. And then I got a lot of offers from other companies. And then one of the companies that came to us was the fish broker that the Wegmans use. And I knew this company, and I just thought that this company was the best company to take over my business and then make it stronger and bigger. So at the end of August, we just signed NDA, and then we exchanged to LOI, a little bit intent, and then we just started doing the due diligence, where I was obligated to show everything that they asked. I invited them to my store and then show how we do businesses, and then just pretty much exchanging everything that they need to know. And then so 2 months after we started doing the due diligence, I got a message from a lot of people all of a sudden, like, "Oh, Yuji, congratulations, opening your branch inside of Wegmans." I had no idea. I didn't open a store in the Wegmans. So, and then I was very puzzled and I'm very confused. And then I went to check it out, the new Wegman, a new store of Wegmans, which is 3 blocks down the street. And then I saw a very big, Japanese, what they call fish market inside of Wegman. And then it was exactly it's almost identical to my business name, Osakana. It was named Sakanaya. And I was like, wow, that's very similar to our name. And then also customers are already confused that I opened a store. And then I also saw the people that I was doing the due diligence working inside of Wegman with Wegman people and then selling the fish that I sell. I was like, wow, that's weird, because I thought they were going to be my business partner, or they're going to buy my business and then do my business down the street. But I was still, in the 3 months of the exclusive due diligence with that company. So I didn't want to be rude. It's what's going on? And then they said, oh, yeah, they're going to run both store, like Wegmans, Sakanaya, and then my Osakana together. And then there's no conflict if they do both. Okay, I was like, okay, and then it was almost toward the end of the year, and then my deadline for leaving New York City was approaching, so I didn't want to make any issues. I just wanted to move on and then make this business transition as smooth as possible. So I just kept going another month with them, and then exactly 1 month after they successfully opened their concept, Sakanaya, they just called us, said that they're no longer interested in my business. Okay, that's weird. And I'm like, so if you back out this deal, we're gonna have an issue because our NDA includes non-compete clause, and then they opened a store that is a direct competition from my store, 3 blocks down the street, with the name that is very identical to my store. So there are 2 violations: common law trademark violations, and then the contract. And then I told them it's gonna be an issue, but they just backed out. And then after that, I've been trying to talk to all the companies, including Wegmans and other companies involved in this operation, trying to find a solution and make a settlement so we can both move on. But there was no conversations. Like, they didn't pretty much care my effort to just discuss and then trying to work it out. And then my lawyer was like, you have no option to sue them. Otherwise, they're going to just act like nothing happened.
Right.
Then I just sued and started the campaign. Yeah, that's kind of like the story. Yes.
Yeah. So during the process, I'm just curious, during the process of them coming in and learning from your staff and seeing, how the operation works and being interested in your business, was that with Wegmans directly, or was that with the fish brokers that are working with Wegmans?
So that was with a fish broker that's
Gotcha.
Working with a big, yes.
Yeah. And how has anyone reached out to you since, the press has kind of gone, because, this story is being covered not just nationally. I think, I've seen a couple of, national publications that have picked this up in online websites, but also here in Little Syracuse and Rochester and Buffalo, I've seen other news sources pick up this story. So has anyone reached out to you from the fish broker or from Wegmans directly since this has kind of gone out there?
Not really, because now we're in officially litigation. So I'm talking to Wegmans right now through my lawyers, and then now we're just hoping to have a just settlement and then move on. So there's really no reason for us to keep fighting because this is what happened. And then if they want to keep selling fish, with what name? If we want to keep the name, if we want to change the name, this needs to be resolved and agreed upon, because we're in the exact same neighborhood, 3 blocks away from each other.
Yeah. I mean, 3 blocks in New York City is nothing. It's in your backyard.
It's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, what would you feel is a good resolution to this for them to kind of change the name of their business and change the logo because it does look and sound identical to yours? Or would it be for them to kind of change their practices because they learned so much of what they're doing from, allegedly what they're doing is exactly what they learned from working with you directly and your staff?
Yeah. So, I'm not against them selling Japanese fish
Right.
down the street. Yeah. I mean, if they chose a completely different name, and if they didn't sign such agreement with me prior to opening their store, I would never have complained because it's a fair competition, right? And then Wegmans big, and I would just think that someone just thought my business idea was good, and then they just opened their own, and then that could have been totally fine. But the fact that their name was so identical to mine, that created confusions for customers. That is a big issue because I built my reputations and goodwill last 8 years in New York with so much hard work. So that was the biggest issue for me. And then the issue was that they signed a contract. So so that's contracts are contracts, and that cannot be just ignored. And then I'm totally fine with them work, if they change the name, yeah, and then continue their fish operation. Now at this point, people know that we are different, thankfully, because of this press.
Right.
And then I'm not saying that they should just shut down the operations. I just want that name to be different and then become your own name. It's the branding is so important for small businesses because we work so hard to build who we are. And then Osakana is the first Japanese style fish market in New York City. And then recognized as Sakanaya in Japanese. Sakanaya means Japanese fish market. So it's literally our business definition turned into their business name.
Mm.
in same neighborhood, and then that is not cool at all for me.
Yeah, for sure. Because if you've built your brand over the last 8 years and have been known as, this one of a kind business, this one of a kind fish market in the city, but especially in your neighborhood. So if a loyal customer of yours is walking into Wegmans in New York City and sees something that looks identical and sounds identical and is doing the exact same thing, it's very easy that they can confuse and say, "Oh, well, I'm supporting
Yeah.
the same local business."
And then if they kept the name and if they were selling Japanese candies, like no problem. Like it's a candy, like it's not a fish.
Mhm.
Like I wouldn't have a complaint. They have a similar name, but the business model is completely different from what I sell,
Mhm.
and then no issues. But if the business model is exactly same, especially with a contract with their fish broker that they've been working for almost 15 years together,
Yeah.
and then the name. I mean, they have so much options to choose a different name. Like I can even help them if they need help, but they keep saying that Sakanaya and Osakana are completely different. Like it is not. It's my language. It's my. It's like, don't say that Japanese, like a translation is not the same. It's like Sakana and Osakana are exactly the same. And I'm from Japan and it's my language.
There's nothing like a large American-based corporation trying to tell you from this area what is and isn't. I mean, if anybody should know, it would be you.
But they say the Japanese, like Sakanaya and Osakana are different. I'm like, no, like clearly my Japanese customers are confused.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you're in New York City, an area that has, people who know what they're looking for. It's not like you're in a small town where people don't know what they're experiencing. Like people know what's right and what's right. And so it's very, to me, it sounds like it's very easily confused amongst the type of customer that they're trying to attract.
Yeah, and then East Village has the highest density of Japanese population in New York City.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
That's rough. Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that there's a petition out there, but with where things stand, what is something that the public should know, whether they're down in your neighborhood in the East Village in New York City, if they're upstate and they just want to find a way to support you or get involved, or anything that they can do to kind of help your business at this time? What are some things that people could do that are listening?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like I already received so many supports from a lot of people, and then the press been talking about this issue so much more than I expected. Like I had no other options to raise my voice other than using this platform, and then I had no guarantee that this would work too. Like no one would be listened to my claim even I launched the campaign. So I'm very fortunate that the people have actually picked up the story. And then I'm not like asking anyone to boycott Wegman. Like I'm not asking like to support my business like just because of this issue. I just wanted everyone to know that this is not a good business practice. And then I just want everyone to understand that any dispute, whether between the small corporation or large corporations, have to be resolved by discussions without bothering court or bothering public, which I had to do because they didn't really talk to me for this long. So that's really the situation that I would like to address. Now this became like a big momentum. So the Wegman thinks that I was very serious. So I'm hoping that we can resolve as soon as possible so that they can move on, I can move on. Yeah, like I have no intention to make this as long as it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think it's you sound like, having never met you before or spoken with you, you sound like somebody who's very reasonable about this, and you're not, the statement alone that you're not looking for people to boycott their business is huge, because most people, I feel like in your situation, would be on an all-out, defensive attack against or an all-out attack against Wegmans, trying to disrupt their business in order to, get what you're looking for. And instead you're saying like, listen, this is just something that needs to be resolved. And, I don't want people to go and boycott or picket or protest their business. So I think it's
No. Like small businesses and large businesses can, coexist and then grow together.
mhm.
Like I think that's the most important thing. And then like small businesses, like businesses can help small businesses. I think there's so many things that small businesses and big businesses can do together. And then I just want to be an example of that. It's like, yeah, but not discussing and then not trying to find a solution. To me, that's not very nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You have a very good perspective on this, and I think that's important. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, for everybody listening, can you tell us a little bit more about your businesses and your restaurants and the things that you're a part of down in the city?
Yeah. So my first business is called Yuji Ramen. Yuji is my name, and then I started making my own ramen with fish bone broth, which is very unique concept because a lot of the ramen is made with pork and chicken. So my background is seafood, and I just saw so much potentials with fish bones that are being discarded every day. So I focused on utilizing the bone, and then I made it to its own business as Yuji Ramen. That's how I started. And after that, I wanted to bring a different Japanese culture to New York City, and I started a restaurant called Okonomi. Okonomi is a very recognized Japanese breakfast restaurant in Williamsburg. And then after that, I started this Osakana business. So my businesses are all based around fish, and then I wanted to create a businesses that focuses on no waste, so that every part of the fish that we use throughout the restaurant and then this Osakana are fully utilized. But even the fish that we sell at the Osakana East Village, like fish collars and then like fish bones that we don't get to sell, I actually send it to my ramen shop, and then they actually make ramen out of it. So I just wanted to create a different business model, not just as a restaurant, but more seafood focused to businesses. So yeah, if you ever come to New York City, Okonomi is a great place for breakfast. Like that's the kind of the breakfast that you get in Japan, like if you stay at the hotels. And then ramen is very special, very healthy, like very nutritious. Like a lot of the things are made only with the fish. And then my East Village store, one of the things that people like about is we offer sushi making class, and then this is the only place in New York City where people can actually touch fish and then make rice and then learn how to make sushi. So I'm very happy about my business concept that I built in New York City, and then this whole business it took me 12 years from scratch.
Wow.
I started everything from zero, out of my apartment. And I'm very proud of it. And hopefully you guys can come and see my businesses.
Yeah, I'll be down. I'll be in the city on Wednesday. Coming down for some meetings. And I've seen your videos about the Japanese breakfast, and that very much excited me and got me hungry. So I will make sure I forget where I'm going to be at in the city on Wednesday, but I will do my very best to come and check out one of your spots for sure. So. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're very busy. I appreciate it.
No, thank you so much for thinking about me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, great. Well, maybe I'll see you Wednesday, or see one of your restaurants, but if not, I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, there it is, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening to this podcast. A little bit of a different one here for Eat Local New York, but something that I wanted to jump on. I've been a Wegmans fan. I shop at Wegmans. Growing up, we always shopped at Wegmans. As a typical upstate New Yorker, I think, the Wegmans sub is kind of an important staple in our diets. And so when I saw that they were going to New York City, I kind of had like this, home team pride for them. It's like, hey, this upstate New York brand is going into New York City. That's really cool. But then I saw, and I forget how I stumbled upon it, but I saw somewhere on Instagram the first one of the first articles that came out about Yuji and his business and his claims against Wegmans. And so I immediately sent him a DM and wanted to get him here on the podcast to chat about it and hear his perspective and his side of things from what's happening. So I think it's really interesting. He's a lot calmer than I thought. Someone who feels that their business is being duplicated, has been taken and recreated from this massive brand 3 blocks away from his business. He has a very calming perspective on it. So a lot of credit to him for that. Because I know if it was me and I was in the middle of this sort of a battle, I'd be losing my mind. But, he's obviously a much more advanced person than I am. But anyways, very interesting to talk to him and hear his perspective on what's happening. And so I'm excited to go down there and check out his restaurants, especially the Japanese breakfast spot, because I've seen some of his videos online. And I was like, hey, I definitely want to go down there and try that. I'm going to be down there Wednesday, and I hope to stop in and check out one of his restaurants. If you want more information, I'll put links here in the show notes so you can check out his restaurants and maybe links to some of the articles and things that are happening. But there it is. Thanks so much for listening to the Eat Local New York podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, whatever platform you're listening or watching to this on. And we'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Eat Local New York podcast.